Say your name.
Yassine Kone.
Okay, Yassine. How old are you?
I'm about to turn 23.
And where are you from?
I'm from Ivory Coast, born in Ivory Coast, grew up in France, and traveled between those countries since.
Your first language was French,
Yeah, my first language is French.
but each village had like its own slang, right?
Yeah, in Ivory Coast we have 60 ethnic groups, and those 60 ethnic groups they have their own languages and their own culture and customs.
So you can't really like understand anyone else's language,
I can understand only mine.
but you can pick up on a little bit of what they're saying, or no?
No, you need to grow up in the village, country, and everything to be able to understand everything. Or you can't. It's like a culture. Yeah.
And okay, so you travel between those two countries, but you were born in the Ivory Coast and you grew up in France.
Mhm.
But how did that happen? Like, how did you end up traveling between the two places?
Because basically my dad is French. When he married my mom, he got the Ivorian citizenship. So that's why I'm from from both places. So sometimes I'm in Ivory Coast, some other time I'm in France. So it depends.
Or okay, is French in France different, or like extremely different than the French that you speak when you're in Ivory Coast?
What you mean? It's like the French from Ivory Coast and the French from France.
Yeah, is it different, like
No, no,
languages?
that is the same French because Ivory Coast have been colonized by French.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that kind of makes more sense.
Yeah,
Than how you
Ivory
prepare
Coast is a
it.
French colony.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same French.
Um, you mentioned the nationality. Your dad took your mom's nationality, or vice versa?
It's like what? My mom is Ivorian, my dad is French. When my dad married my mom, he took my mom's nationality. It's like he got both, and then my
Okay,
mom
he
too
got
got
both,
both.
or
Yeah,
she got both too.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's even more interesting than the first time I heard it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that work? Can you explain how that works for us? So like the nationality, is that kind of like how over here whenever two people get married, the woman normally takes the man's last name kind of thing. Like it's just normal.
Mhm. uh, Considering that that's mostly about marriage. When you marry your husband, you take your husband's name, but it has nothing to do with nationality and citizenship now.
So like okay, if you're in the
How's
United
the process happen? So
Yeah.
How the process happened?
yeah, like okay, do you just have to marry somebody and they automatically gain it, or do you have to go through like a certain?
You have to go through set. It's like here in the U.S. If me, for example, like I'm not American. If I have to marry an American girl, I think the process here I have to spend like 2 years. After 2 years, I can apply,
Oh, okay.
and then after that, I will have to go to for an interview. After the interview, I will get I think the 2 years green card. After that, I have to go back after 2 or 3 years again to get now another green card or something like that. It's the same process.
Okay.
But in Ivory Coast, it's kind of fast. It's like after 2 or 3 years, you can apply to have the citizenship.
And then after you apply, is it like a strenuous process?
No,
No.
not really. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, the thing is, you don't need to get it. But my dad, he just tried to get it because he was planning to do some political stuff.
So
Yeah,
like
in
there's,
Ivory Coast, that's why he tried to get it.
there's open travel between the two countries.
I mean, from Ivory Coast to go to France, you need to have a visa. But
Okay.
from France to Ivory Coast, if you're French, you want to go to Ivory Coast, you don't need visa. You need your passport.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, you said from France to Ivory Coast, you don't need a visa, you just need a passport.
Yeah, if you're French. If
If
you have
you're
a French
French.
passport,
Okay,
you can go to
because
Ivory
that's
Coast.
because like it was colonized by France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't say that it's like I don't know. It's like here in the U.S. If you guys wanna go to Ivory Coast, you don't need Ivorian visa.
Really?
You just need to buy your ticket.
So like if I would live there for like a year, I wouldn't need like a visa.
No, you don't need a visa. You just get, I think, I don't know the name of that things in French. I mean, in English, in French we call that carte de séjour. It's like this card will allow you to be on the territory, something like that. You just need to get this and then you can go there. But from Ivory Coast to come here, I need like a visa or something.
When Yassine first came to America, because he was born in the Ivory Coast and then moved to France, a girl went in to say goodbye, went in for a hug. Yassine kissed both of her cheeks. The girl was very surprised and Yassine was confused at her reaction. Yassine then had to explain how in France that's how they said goodbye to someone. Needless to say, Yassine never made this mistake again. The purpose of this speech is to show how Yassine's African and French cultures compared to American cultures using Mirkov, Hofstede, and Cole. Learning about different cultures is important because it helps us to learn different ways of thinking and also helps to show us how things are done in a different part of the world. In this speech, we will be informing you about the values of Cole, Hofstede, Mirkov, and how they apply to American and French culture.
Applying Cole's values to the African and French cultures, you will see the differences between change versus tradition and practicality versus idealism. In today's society, it is important to understand and learn about intercultural communications. I will be talking about an interview I had with Yassine, an international student from the Ivory Coast, about his culture's view. The first question I asked Yassine was, is your culture big on change or tradition? His response was, my culture is big on tradition. For example, if I entered a public place and I saw an elder standing, I would kindly give up my seat as a sign of respect to my elders. Now that you've heard about Yassine's view on his culture's tradition, I will now go on to the next question given in the interview. The second question given was, what is your culture's view on practicality versus idealism? Yassine's answer was, it is about the same there as it is here, but on a more grounded level. For example, if I were to give someone a gift, I would have to know that person on a deeper level. Now that you've heard about African and French culture through Cole's values, I will talk about these cultures using Hofstede's values.
Applying Hofstede's values to the African and French cultures, you will see how they are collectivistic, restrained, and masculine. The African culture tends to be more collectivistic versus individualistic as we tend to be in America. With them being collectivistic, they are always thinking about how their actions will either honor or dishonor their family. If it dishonors them, they tend to try to go about a situation a different way. On both cultures are different as far as how they are, either masculine or feminine. The French culture tends to be more equal, so they would technically be a feminist culture. Africa, however, is a masculine culture. The men are the only ones who are allowed to bring pay into the house and use it towards family, like their kids, their anything at all. Women are able to have jobs, however, they can only use it for things for themselves. Like if their families or their children needed anything, they could not use their money for it. And it varies from family to family on if the women are even allowed to have a job. Some of them are required to stay at home and only do domestic work. And if that's the case, then they have to obey. Both cultures tend to be restrained. Their moral discipline is observed. They have defined gender roles in Africa. Smiling to them is suspicious. They tend to think that if you pass somebody on the street or anything and they smile at you, and you don't know them, they think that you're making fun of them or that you have something on your clothes or your face.
Minkoff would label Yassine's culture as consisting of both monumentalism and flexibility. Because Yassine has grown up surrounded by both heavy Ivory Coast and French influences, his culture is very mixed. For example, Yassine himself is Muslim. He said about 60% of the Ivory Coast is also Muslim, and he described the other 40% as being predominantly Christians. They do not practice openly or in public spaces in Africa, but they do have private temples and they will practice privately, but just not in open areas. As for when he's in France, he said people do not really care to know about your religion. The French, they have a very nonchalant, I don't care type attitude. about everything, is how we describe them. Also, according to Yassine, only tourists get monetary tips in France, and tipping is not even an idea in Africa. He informed us that tipping is not expected or normal in Africa or France. Workers work to get paid, they don't work for tips, so it can be strange when they do receive one. Citizens of the Ivory Coast are also too scared to die, and people in France, they just don't care whether you commit suicide or not. Like, it's not that they don't care, it's that it's not necessarily frowned upon if you do commit suicide in France. Same with the Ivory Coast, but it's not as common there as it is in other places. Yassine embodies pieces of both the Ivory Coast culture and the French culture because he's lived between the two places for so long. Because France has more like self-pride and open feelings about suicide and that unattractive, I don't care attitude, it qualifies them as a monumentalistic culture. As for Africa, the people there are more traditional and humble, and they're really uncommon tippers, right? And they're scared of death, they fear it. But suicide is still acceptable to them. These characteristics make Africa a flexibility culture. Now, compared to America, they're both very different cultures, but they both compose Yassine.
In this presentation, you have been enlightened about how the African and French cultures of Yazine Cognier are defined using Cole, Hofstede, and Minkoff's values. From what you all have learned today, we should strive to gain knowledge about how things work around the world, to gain different and possibly more mind-opening views about different cultures. So, next time you smile at someone random on the street, remember, it may be very odd to them.